Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the My Slice of Life podcast. My name is Sharon and I am your very own Highland host. I'm also on a mission to help you get more joy in your life by looking at all sorts of different topics here on the podcast to the point where you too become a happy wee Joy Bunny and subscribe, so then you'll have joined the Joy Bunny clan. Yeah, I know it's a bit weird, but just go with it, okay, because that's what I came up with one day and I've stuck with it. Anyway, this new season is all about getting productive. It is a busy time of year and I figured we could all do with just a little bit of help to keep us going. So today we're looking at motivation. Oh, it's a big topic, friends. It's a big topic. It's one of those things we always seem to want more of, isn't it? Whether it's sticking to personal goals, staying focused at work, or simply finding the drive to tackle the day-to-day tasks, motivation is key. So let's dive in and find out what it is, why we might not have it, and what strategies we can use to boost it. So what exactly is motivation? Well, the experts have agreed it's that internal process that initiates, guides and sustains goal-oriented behaviours. That doesn't sound very inspiring though, does it? It sounds a bit drab. A better way of explaining it then might be saying that motivation is what causes us to act, whether it's something small, like getting a glass of water, or something big, like pursuing a career goal. It's our drive, isn't it? It's our oomph, our cheerleaders that help us get things done. But there are two primary types of motivation. There's extrinsic and intrinsic. So I want to take a wee second just to break those down a little more. The extrinsic motivation, that comes from, as it sounds, external rewards like money, praise, good grades, that kind of thing. And it's when you do something because there's an outcome tied to it. Whereas the intrinsic motivation, that's different. It comes from within. It's driven by personal satisfaction or the joy you get from the task itself. You know, like someone who loves running, not because of a competition, they're on their own, but it just makes them feel good. That's their intrinsic motivation. Both are important, don't get me wrong, but depending on your situation, one might be more effective for you than the other. You might already know which type of motivation works best for you most of the time, but most of us will fluctuate from one type to the other depending on what it is we're actually doing. And I'll give you a laugh, right? I remember years ago, someone wanted me to go to kickboxing class with them. And if you know me, you'll know how funny that is in itself. And I asked them, what's the class like? And I was told, oh, it's great. The instructor shouts at you and makes you work so hard till you're in pain. You wake up the next day and you can hardly move. It's brilliant, they said. I said they should have joined the army and declined to go to the class. That sounded like hell to me. Someone shouting in my face does not motivate me at all. That person, however, that was their idea of heaven. But if we can have all this motivation, what stops us from getting things done? Even the everyday stuff. What is it that's holding us back from staying motivated all the time? Well, it could be any number of things, really. And I want to go through just some of the more common ones with you now. The first one I want to mention is actually fear of failure. We've all been there. That fear of messing up can make us not even want to start in the first place. Maybe there's a class you want to do, or you want to start going to the gym and you're sort of motivated, but not enough to get over this hurdle of the fear of failing. I remember when I thought about doing this podcast well over a year ago now, I wanted to do one and I bought a microphone, but it was over a month before I even plugged it in. I had the motivation to get the mic, that was easy, but actually working out what I was going to talk about and then getting round to recording it, that was a different story. And I let myself get held back because I was worried about not doing it right. I was worried I would fail, worried what others would think of me. I think we all do this at some point though, don't we? We let our fears hold us back from even starting, and that in turn keeps our motivation low. What about feeling overwhelmed or stressed? Too much on your plate can make it hard to focus on any one thing. And how are you supposed to be feeling motivated when all you feel is so overloaded you don't even know where to start? When we feel stressed, it can be very hard to get motivated to start doing anything. Even something as simple as getting the dishes washed can feel like climbing a mountain. And again, if we're honest, I think we've all been there too. Sometimes it doesn't take much to knock us down to the point we find every little thing is just too much. Maybe you aren't sleeping well. Maybe, someone at work has been a right git. You get an unexpected bill, you forget an appointment, and then you end up sick at the end of the week. And now you're supposed to feel motivated to clean your house? Not going to happen. And I'm saying this, our house is an absolute disaster at the moment. For the past little while, I think I've had shingles, and I'm getting over it now, but the pain over the last couple of weeks has been pretty intense. So if you think my house has been sparkling and I've had the motivation to get up and clean it, you are wrong. I haven't even been up to the allotment for over a week. I'm hoping, I'm planning, I'm motivated to go tomorrow, as long as the weather holds out. The weather has also been terrible, which didn't help my motivation. But if you're not well, that really can play havoc with your levels of motivation and then getting things done. And it leads on to another motivation killer, procrastination. And again, we all do this. Sometimes it feels easier to just put things off, thinking you'll feel more motivated later when the motivation fairy comes along and sprinkles her magic dust all over you. Spoiler, that's not ever going to happen. Never. And I know that because I'm still waiting for her. Then, of course, there's negativity. And it doesn't even have to come from you. In fact, most of the time you'll probably find it comes from other people. Now, I just mentioned we have an allotment. We started with a small plot, and when we moved to the plot we have now, which is bigger than our first one, you wouldn't believe how many people would go past and stop to tell me how much work it was going to be. Then they would do that tut and the inhale thing that farmers do and repeat how much work it was going to be as if I didn't hear them the first time. They'd be standing, leaning over my fence going, aye, that's going to be a lot of work. Oh, yep, that's a lot of work. That kind of thing. I got so fed up hearing it. In the end, I would just tell them, don't worry, I won't ask you to do any of it. And it got me wondering, why are they trying to put me off? Why are they trying to kill my motivation to even get started? There is that kind of negativity. Then there's also the negativity you tell yourself. And if you keep telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to manage this, all those kind of things, eventually you start to believe it. So we don't want to go down that road either. And some of these things are topics I think I might come back to later on. They're quite big topics on their own. But the last one I want to mention, well, you might not like to hear it, but here goes. Maybe we don't do stuff because we're lazy. We just can't be bothered. No dramas, no other reason than that. We just can't be bothered to get off our backsides and do whatever it is that needs done. Maybe. Is any of this sounding familiar yet? Are you recognising what is holding you back or smothering your motivation when you really need it? I think it's helpful to realise this because once you know what's going on, you can make positive changes and overcome these obstacles. Alright, so we've looked at all the kind of doom and gloom. Now on to the good stuff. How do we improve motivation? How do we give ourselves a lift or just a good kick up the bum? Well, here are a few things for you to try the next time you feel less motivated than you want. First of all, have a goal and make it specific. Be very specific. So for example, if you say, I want to get fit, that's very vague. But your goal might be, right, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes every day. Or if your house is messy, like mine is at the moment, you could set a very specific goal, like I'm going to make sure the dishes are washed and put away at the end of every day. That's a good start. And this strategy ties into the next one pretty nicely, which is break larger tasks down into smaller pieces. And large projects or ideas can feel very overwhelming. If somebody puts a plate loaded with food down in front of you, that can be very off-putting. But if they put a small plate with a few things on it, ooh, nibbles, nice. They put down several plates after that, you probably end up eating the same amount of food, but that first plate was just too much. So we're going to break things down into smaller, easier, more manageable pieces. An example of that might be, say you want to become a reader. Well, wow, where do you start? I wouldn't suggest you pick up a Charles Dickens book and dive in. Instead, break it down into smaller steps. Start by joining your local library and find a section which interests you. And don't feel you have to read all the classics in a month because you think that's what everyone else is doing. When you've picked a book, tell yourself you're going to read 10 pages a day or read for 30 minutes a day, whatever suits you. Maybe you could only manage 10 minutes a day, but you do that and you build up from there. You're breaking your tasks down into smaller, more manageable pieces, and it's much easier to take on and deal with them doing it that way. And don't forget to celebrate when you complete each one. Each step, a wee celebration. Just a little thing. I was talking about this kind of thing actually with our son the other day. There was something he wanted to do, and what we did was we drew a ladder and we put his goal at the top and we put where he is at the bottom and we put in all the rungs in between and what he's going to do on each rung. And you could try that, and then you can actually see yourself climbing up the ladder. And I think it's a great way of breaking down one big task into smaller, easier, more manageable pieces, and you can actually see your progress. So the next one I want to give you is repetition. Do it every day to create a positive habit. If you go for a walk every day, it becomes a habit, just something you do. Therefore, you're actually reducing your reliance on motivation. It's something you now do. I mean, think about when you brush your teeth. You don't really need motivation to do that, do you? You just do it because you always do it. It's a habit. And once something becomes routine, like brushing your teeth or like going for a daily walk, you don't even need to think about it, and you'll find those negative obstacles that you used to have, they're just not a problem. They disappear because now you have the habit. Okay, next up, reward yourself. If the extrinsic motivation works for you, use it. Set up small rewards after completing tasks. It could be as simple as taking a break, having a coffee, enjoying a wee treat. Whatever you think will help you get up and get that job done. And I'm going to admit that recently, if I've been struggling to do things, I've promised myself I get to watch an episode of Outlander when I'm finished. And the problem now is I'm all caught up and I'm waiting for the next part of season 7 to air. So I'm going to have to go and find another show now that I can use for my motivation, my wee reward, my treat at the end of the day when all the jobs are done. But it does work. I am a big fan of rewarding yourself, as you can probably tell. It works for me. So if it works for you, use it. Successful, productive people use visualization a lot. They visualize their success. Then they get up and go and get it. And that can work for you too. Picture yourself achieving your goals. Apparently, just that act of visualization helps your brain see the outcome as more attainable. It's now a possibility. If you're going to a job interview, for example, visualize yourself getting the job before you even leave the house. The day before, as soon as you hear you've got the interview, visualize yourself getting the job. Whatever situation you're visualizing, the clearer and more detailed you can make it, the better. Next up for boosting our motivation is surrounding yourself with positive people if you can. And I know not everyone is able to manage this one, but motivation is contagious. It's a bit like yawning or the giggles. So try and find people who you know are positive and soak up that energy. And just to add to that as well, stay away from negative people. They do your motivation no favours whatsoever. Right, next. You'll have heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. Well, the next time you need to do something but you can't get it together, do something. Any little action, no matter how small. Act like you're not tired, or you're not lazy, or you can't wait to get started. Pretend. Just pretend you have loads of energy and do one little thing to start. Just one. You'd be amazed at how your physical actions can then influence your thoughts and motivation. Quite often, when I have a large pile of ironing, for example, and it happens more frequently than I really want to admit to you, I'll tell myself, I'll just do the towels. Or maybe I'll just do the towels and sheets and I'll do the rest later. But see, that very act of starting, it does give me the motivation to do the whole lot. That whole pile usually gets done. If you have to clean the bathroom, for example, tell yourself you're only going to do it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's nothing, right? You can do 5 minutes. But you'll probably find you want to finish the job because the very act of starting it sparks your motivation to complete it. Do try that one. That does work for me. So seriously try it. That is one I really recommend. Fake it till you make it. And if you know something is a big distraction for you, put it away for a while. No Instagram. No reading through my old blog posts until you've done something. Think of it as a little treat. You can go and find my blog on my YouTube and, that's your treat once you've done your job. It's still there. It's waiting for you. I promise. I've put it all out there for you. You can use it afterwards. And if all else fails, I know, I just realised I'm being really cheeky here, plugging on my own stuff, but hey, I can do it. Who cares? If all else fails, you could always take the advice I got from my husband when I asked him how I could get things done when my motivation was low. Now, bear in mind, he's a Glaswegian, and his answer was, just get off your arse and do it. Not quite the famous sports slogan, but I think the message gets across just the same. Okay, so you've got some strategies now to boost your motivation, but what about maintaining that over the long term? It's one thing, to use these techniques over the next week, but what about the next few months or years? Well, I've got you covered, friend. I've got a few ideas for you there too. Firstly, try to stay flexible. And no, I don't mean you've got to take up yoga, for goodness sake. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean realising that despite all our plans and efforts, life happens. Sometimes things just don't go according to plan, and that's okay. Just take a breath, adjust your goals or your approach as needed. And if it helps, remember our family motto. We have a motto, and I'm quite happy to share it with you. We tell each other frequently, it all gets done eventually. Another thing for you to think about, embrace the setbacks. Mistakes are great. We need them as adults. You're probably looking at whatever device you're listening to this right now going, what are you talking about? But think about it. When we're kids, we're being taught by someone, right? You get taught as a child. But when we're adults, what? We're just expected to know it all. But we don't. And it's mistakes which teach us. So don't let failure stop you. Use it as feedback and keep moving on. I'm a great believer in things happening for a reason, even if that reason isn't always immediately clear. And most of the time it won't be immediately clear. So don't see a mistake as a setback. That is your adult teaching tool. Use it. Next up is reflection. Kind of related to the mistake thing really. So take some time to reflect on your progress. Even just a quick mental check-in with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Just that, are you still on track? Are your goals still aligned with what you want? Maybe you need to add a few steps in, to help you break down that goal a little more. A few more rungs to the ladder. Nothing wrong with that. But just remember to take a little moment to reflect and make sure that you're still on track. And the last thing I want to give you is being kind to yourself. If things aren't going perfectly, you mentally attacking yourself is not going to help you one bit. In fact, if anything, motivation thrives in a positive, encouraging environment, not one filled with guilt or self-doubt. And it might take a little practice, but that's okay. I mean, nobody needs to know that you're telling yourself, hey, look at you go, or well done, when you've tidied the kitchen or cleaned the toilet. But you'll know, and you'll feel better for it too. And the final wee tip I have here is just to remind you that motivation is a skill that can grow over time. And remember, it's okay to have days where you don't feel your best. We're only human after all. If we do have a bad day, the good news is we don't have to give up. We just accept it and have a better day tomorrow. And that golden little nugget of wisdom wraps up today's episode, friends. I hope you found it helpful and you're feeling more motivated to go and do something you've been putting off for ages. As always, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you spending this time with me. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might need a little motivational boost today. If you have enjoyed this episode, feel free, please do leave a comment or a like. Your support really does mean the world to me. And don't forget to delve into the links in the show notes, which I very cheekily alluded to earlier. And do come back next Monday for the next episode so we can all continue to get productive. But until then, you take care of your wee self